Hey everyone, this is James here, talking about Italian genre films again. Today I am going to be talking about High Crime, 1973, the Enzo G Castellari Franco Nero film, considered to definitely be a genre classic of the polizioteschi Eurocrime genre. So this is kind of a special one, just because I was not planning on bringing this film on to the show anytime soon, even though it's kind of one of the big texts that people talk about and stuff like that. I'd seen this film probably 5 years ago at this point for the first time. So this is a rewatch there. But I got an email from my local cinema, The Beacon, who shows a lot of older films and is just really has a lot of special showings and things like that. And they were doing a special showing a couple days later on Sunday, just a few days ago, where none other than Bill Lustig of Maniac, Maniac Cop, Vigilante, Maniac Cop 2, etc., etc. So just a great director of a lot of kind of genre films of the 80s and the 90s in America, who has his own label, Blue Underground, was showing the uncut, restored version that will soon be seen on Blu-ray just there. So I had to go check it out. That was kind of a must-do for me as soon as I got that email. I don't think a lot of people got wind of it quite in time, so it was a relatively small showing, but Bill Lustig was really generous with his time. He sat and watched the film with everyone. He talked a lot about the restoration process and things like that. And so, wanted to just give this film a little bit of love. I think it definitely deserves it, even though it's kind of one of those big ones that people that are very into the genre have heard of. This is not a well-seen film. It's something like between 1,000 and 2,000 people on Letterboxd have seen this. So while if you are a polizioteschi fan like myself, you definitely have probably heard of this or seen this. I think it's still a film that could use a lot of different love from people that I think would definitely kind of enjoy this film, especially if you're into kind of like these crime films from the 60s, the 70s especially. And so what's interesting about this too is Lustig talked a bit about the restoration, and it's the Studio Canal restoration, which has been seen a couple times. The rights finally reverted, the North American rights, I believe, to Studio Canal, who then went ahead and restored it, and it was released in France and the UK as Blu-ray. But what they found out, or at least what Lustig found out when he was looking at that, is it was missing the last 12 minutes, which is funny, because the last 12 minutes is pretty essential to the film. There's a big climactic gunfight, and if you know Castellari, you know that the gunfights and the action are the great things about his films. He is one of the great action directors. I would say he's the best kind of Italian action director of this period. And so he's just really gifted at staging and filming action. So missing kind of those essential pieces, it is kind of funny that they were missing it. So definitely check out kind of the uncut version. Make sure you are not cutting the film short by that 12 or 13 minutes or whatever it is exactly. And so, that really is kind of the slam-bang conclusion to the film. This definitely has kind of the reputation of being a big Eurocrime film, and deservedly so. This, along with Violent Professionals and Execution Squad, were kind of seen as films that really kind of, they didn't invent the Eurocrime genre, but they kind of boosted it to another level of popularity. Especially this and the Violent Professionals have been much, much imitated. You can definitely see the influence of this film on Maurizio Merli, down all the way to the way Franco Nero looks. He's got very distinctive blonde hair in this, and so you could really see Merli kind of just adopting that look to the best he could. Should and why to watch this? Yes, you should absolutely watch this film. It's essentially Eurocrime, hugely influential, and it's just kind of a great action film. So highly, highly recommend anyone that's into polizioteschi that has not seen this film to check it out. I also strongly recommend people check out the best available print, which should be the Blue Underground one too. It looked really, really good. And it's, they went ahead and tracked down that last 12 or 13 minutes, which came from a different source. I believe it was some sort of a German collector or whatnot. So they put it all together. They really painstakingly restored that last 12 or 13 minutes. And so it looks really good. So definitely check that out, because that last 12 or 13 minutes is one of the big set pieces of the film. So it's interesting to see this film in particular after watching so many of the Damiani Nero films, because he's used very, very differently here. It's far more in the vein of kind of, not exactly a Dirty Harry Cop, but a little bit closer towards that then Damiani would ever use him as kind of like the privileged guy in prison in The Case of Closed Forget It, or kind of like the young prosecutor that's a bit naive in some of the other ones. Here, he's a little bit of a kind of an anti-hero in some ways, not unlike maybe The Fifth Corps, also released in this time. And it might be the most kind of like energetic, relentless, and kind of unhinged that I've seen Nero in a film. He's quite good in this film. I do enjoy his presence in just about everything, so it does benefit quite a lot from his kind of star presence here. You also have kind of Fernando Rey and James Whitmore, which kind of add like a sense of gravitas and class to the rest of the cast. Things like that. The film is primarily set, and I've seen a lot of people mistaking it for Marseille, which is understandable because they do have a couple scenes in Marseille. It's mostly set in Genoa, which is another kind of Mediterranean city, this time kind of on the Italian side, so it's east of Marseille. And it's used just some great location shooting, which for me at least is one of the big reasons why I like a lot of these Eurocrime poliziesque. I love the settings that they're in. So I think he shot Street Law, at least also in Genoa. So Castellari would kind of go back to the well there a couple times. It's a great looking city. In the Italian crime filmography, Roberto Curti described it as one of the more American cities. It doesn't look particularly American to me as an American, but nonetheless, I think it looks really good. I can see how one could mistake this for Marseille with kind of those alleyways and things like that. The opening of the film in particular really, really harkens back a lot to French Connection, which was just released a couple of years earlier, and is definitely kind of seen as one of the big influences on the poliziesque, the Italian crime film of this era. It's kind of like that film came first, High Crime kind of updated it and took certain elements from it. It's definitely not the same film, but there are definitely influences there, and it kind of moved it over here, and then it became kind of, it kind of took on a life of its own with the Merrily films and a lot of other films with kind of your solo unhinged cop. So I think that's one of the ways that this film has aged a bit. It's just very, very imitated, and that's not a knock on High Crime specifically, but I think it does kind of dilute the impact just a little bit, just because it's something that a lot of people have seen before and might not feel quite as fresh as kind of the headlines as the film would have been in like the 70s when it came out. It's interesting, I read a little bit on background on this film. Supposedly it was influenced too by kind of the cop dying, with the Whitmore character in this, so influenced from kind of like the headlines as a lot of the poliziesques were. But I think really the place where this shines is from the action and the energetic performance from Nero in particular. Castellari is just a very, very good action director. The use of slow-mo is excellent. You even get a shot at the end of a guy getting shot in the nuts with slow-mo, which is amazing. I could not help but laugh to myself a bit there. So he definitely kind of calls into, he references people like Peckinpah. Castellari really, really liked the slow-mo. People like John Woo, who would come a little bit later, too. So it's a lot of those kind of influences coming together there. In terms of set pieces, I wish I could have taken a little bit more detailed notes, but the opening chase scene is really good. Remy Julien, who coordinated a lot of the different car stunts, in particular in these Eurocrime films, had his hand in it. That it almost just drops you right in and starts with a chase, which starts out as kind of like a foot chase, similar to French Connection, and then kind of develops more into a car chase. And it's just this wonderful era of stunt cinema and things like that going on, where we have cars, the Italian sirens that kind of have this shrill sound going on, and the cars are just zooming around, and you can tell these guys are actually doing it for real. So it's just a great way to start the film. It's a really, really great action scene. We have like some explosions. This film really does have a strong mean-spiritedness to it. The opening 15-20 minutes is just a fantastic way to start the film. The other complaint I do have about the film, too, is that it is a fairly convoluted thing, and I do think Castellari's main strengths are more with the action rather than necessarily narrative storytelling. I don't think it's bad necessarily. I just think it does slowly start to get bogged down with sort of the convolutedness of the plot. Before kind of every time that it starts to get bogged down too much, though, there's almost another set piece and things like that that just draws you kind of back in. So in the end, I do really like the film. It's just that would be one of my minor complaints about the film too. The concluding gunfight is also extremely creative. There's some great uses of slow-mo. The spatial sense is really nice too, where we have Nero kind of crawling under the floorboards. It kind of takes place at this port. So really, really well coordinated. We have him shooting through cylinders and things like that. You'd see, if you're familiar with kind of Castellari's filmography, you've probably seen really clever staging. One that always comes to mind is like the Kyome shot, where he's holding up the fingers and he kind of mows down everyone one by one. So really, really creative, playing to his strengths there. So it's incredible to me that last reel was missing for so long too. Okay, and let's see what else I have here. The last thing, wanted to shout out the DeAngelis brothers, who again bring a great score to this. They scored a lot of the Castellari films of this period. This one is a little more classic 70s. You have some flute going on, and just very kind of funky. And it's just a great crime soundtrack too. So I always love the different locations and the music. So kind of these secondary elements that are brought into this. Who won the film? I'm gonna say Castellari. A double feature. I would definitely pair this with Street Law, for me at least. High Crime, Street Law, and Big Racket. Those are all great, kind of the three sort of very good Eurocrime films that Castellari did. My personal favorite of those three is The Big Racket, which is a little more rompy, a little less serious perhaps than this one, but a lot of fun, and I really, really loved the action in that one. Nonetheless, I think this film has a ton of stuff going for it. The Nero performance is really good. It's just nice to see an actor that, it's funny to see Nero and Merrily in kind of very similar roles, because Merrily could pretty much only do that role, whereas Nero who is a much better actor and has had really a great career, could do all kinds of different roles in Jolly, and spaghetti westerns, and a lot of different polizioteschi, playing different faces kind of in all those different areas. And so he worked with Castellari a lot. So yeah, highly recommend Street Law, another great collaboration with those two. Rating, gonna give this a 7.5, very solid. I will very likely be picking up that Blue Underground Blu-ray, just because, it sounds really great, and the film looks really, really good. I had to stay up a bit past my bedtime to watch this, just with a young baby in the house, so I was getting a little tired at different points, but so I do look forward to watching it again. Thank you all for tuning in, and thanks to Bill Lustig, the Beacon Cinema, and Blue Underground for the painstaking work of tracking this down and releasing it. So thank you all, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.